When it comes to local traditions here in the UAE, then who better to learn from than our co-host for today, Mohammed Al Jasmi from the Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum Center for Cultural Understanding. Mohammed, thank you so much for being on the show.
You're welcome. Nice to meet you guys, everyone. I'm excited today also to share what we have, what we do in the center, basically.
We're very excited to have you, and I do want to know what you do at the center, because you said I'm a cultural presenter.
Exactly.
What does that mean exactly?
Basically, it means that people come to us in the center, and we are responsible to share to people our stories. We're responsible to answer people questions about our culture, our tradition, in a very, I would say, genuine way. You know, we don't like it to be in a presentation. It's not school. But we like it to be like we're in a coffee shop or you're coming to our house, you know. We have an important part of the house, which is the majlis, you know. So we sit together, we talk with each other, and also they get to try some of the Emirati food that we have.
This is our little DXB today, majlis
Exactly.
right here.
It's nice.
And of course the gawa as well.
Gawa,
exactly.
exactly.
You need to,
I didn't see the gawa.
Maybe after.
It should be, right?
Yeah.
These sofas stained.
But this is it. That's the one thing I wanted to know, Mohammed. When it comes to storytelling and preserving the heritage, how do you do that, like in a fun, cultural way, but still preserving the heritage as well?
As you said, you know, a big part of sharing the culture is sharing the stories of our ancestors, our leaders. And I would say, you know, this is the most fun way to know about Emirati culture. And we do have a lot of stories, especially with our founder, Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, with the ruler of Dubai, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid. There's many stories, and I get a lot of those stories from his book, the 50 stories. My story, sorry.
Yeah.
My story. It does have a lot of stories about how Dubai was before, how the UAE got unified together, and to be honest, there's a lot of stories that I didn't know before. And I got to know it from the book.
Yeah, because it's poetry as well. He does poetry as well, so it's it's a
exactly.
wonderful book.
It's amazing how, you know, it shares a lot of details of how was it before, you know, before the union, how UAE was. Because, you know, I wasn't born before at that time. I don't know how the life used to be. Then it shows how the union happened. Then later on, what are the challenges that face the UAE, you know, with a lot of different stories. And I like to share some of those stories to our guests, you know, for them to know more about the UAE.
Yeah, I would love to go on one of your tours, man.
You have to.
So Mohammed, when you do interact with guests that come into the center, what are some misconceptions or questions that you get, and how do you address them?
To be honest, there is a lot of misconceptions, to be honest, about the UAE or about the Emiratis generally. One of the things that's really strange to me, to be honest, is that people sometimes think that we're not friendly. Like, oh, don't talk to Emiratis, don't approach them, you know. They might feel offended if we do this and this. But I don't know from where they came up with this stereotype. But I always tell them, you know, you're seeing me now, you're chatting with each other, so we are friendly. That's one thing. And of course, a big misconception about the UAE or about Emiratis is that we are super rich, you know, that I have a Lamborghini standing outside. No. Yes, we are very privileged as Emiratis, to be honest. The government here really helps us with a lot of things. But of course, we don't have a lot of Ferraris and Lamborghinis.
It's usually Land Cruisers.
Yeah, exactly. Or patrols, Land Cruiser or patrol. Do you know what I find? What you just said was quite interesting. I think because when sometimes I put on Kandura and I put on the whole thing, and I find myself walking a lot straighter and elegant, slowly. You know, so it seems like you're in stature. You are unapproachable in that sense because you're just.
It's a certain presence.
Yeah,
and,
it's a presence.
It's a presence
an
that
energy.
you.
Yeah, and it's because of what you're wearing.
Yeah.
That's
It
why.
is what we wear. It's actually a big part of our culture, you know. And a lot of people, you know, always like ask us about our clothes. Like, why are you wearing this thing? What is the kandoras about? Can anyone, you know, wear it? And it does have some of the things that we have to respect. You know, I always tell people, whenever they ask me, can we wear the kandora? So like, of course, it's totally fine. But the most important thing is to respect what you're wearing.
Yes.
You know, we always, it's for me, it's for anyone who wears the kandora, I always say, we don't represent ourselves. You know, when I'm wearing the kandora, I present all Emiratis, maybe all Arabs, you know? So if I do something wrong, you're like, oh, this is the Emirati guy did that thing, you know? So we always respect what we wear, basically.
And this is what I really love about the UAE as a whole, is it's a nation which has embraced a lot of expats. It's embraced a lot of innovations. It's very different now than it was after the unification 53 years ago. How do you find that balance between keeping the tradition alive as well as entering into the modern world?
So it's very important always, of course, to keep up with the world, keep up what's doing. And I think UAE is doing a really great job in terms of, AI now with a lot of different things. But at the same time, whenever I attend any of the big conferences, I remember I attended the World Government Summit maybe 2 years ago. And always, the leadership always mentions Emirati family values, that this is very important. Yes, we talk about, AI, yes, we talk about, the future and what we want to achieve, but at the same time, it's very important to keep those values alive. And I think, what makes a person different is his culture. And embracing that culture, showing people that culture through your talking, through your stories, through your clothing, is very important to show to people, Yes, it's nice to talk to people, it's nice to change sometimes, to try different things, but it's very important also to keep that culture alive.
Very quickly, before we end this segment, I do want to ask, because I know it's important for expats to understand the UAE culture. Have you noticed there's a problem with young Emiratis struggling with understanding UAE culture in such a globalized school system that they're in now?
Fortunately, there is this challenge, it's there. And I think it started because the older generation saw that there is a lot of opportunities, but their kids cannot achieve that because they didn't have English. They don't know how to speak in English, or they're not good at English. So they came up with this idea that they have to go to international schools. They have to know English very well, and the Arabic little bit fell down. I'm not saying everyone, of course. There is people that really they go to international schools, but at home, I do have a friend who's an Arabic teacher, and he goes like home tutoring. He teaches them how to read, the Holy Book. He teaches them how to speak in Arabic and that. So it's important for the family actually to take care of that. But it is a challenge. That is there, to be honest. Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us, Mohammed. It's always great to learn more about the culture of the city that we call home. So that was very insightful. Thank you for sharing. Next up, we'll be finding out about how our language is tied to our cultural identity.